The unexpected discovery. 23 years ago, in the quiet town of Maplewood, John Baker, a decorated veteran with a heart full of courage and loss, found his life changed forever. Having returned home after years of deployment, he settled into a small, well-kept house on the edge of town. Despite the warmth of the community, John often felt the lingering shadow of solitude. Memories of his late wife, Rebecca, surfaced in the silent moments, filling his life with both love and an ache that seemed endless. One rainy afternoon, while on a routine walk through the town's quieter streets, John heard about an abandoned house on the outskirts, a neglected, nearly forgotten place that had been left in disrepair for years. Concerned for the neighborhood and compelled by his instinct to protect, John decided to check in on the property. Upon reaching the house, he noticed a broken window and door left ajar, the musty smell of abandonment lingering in the air. As he cautiously entered, he was struck by an eerie silence and the dim lighting of the empty rooms. But then, faint whispers reached his ears, soft voices echoing in the darkened space. Following the sounds, he made his way to a back room where he discovered an unimaginable sight. 9 young girls, all sisters, huddled together on the cold floor, each face etched with fear, confusion, and exhaustion. They ranged in age from just 3 years old to 14. Their clothes were worn and mismatched, their faces streaked with dirt and tears. They gazed up at John with expressions that showed both apprehension and a faint glimmer of hope, as though his presence might be a lifeline they had desperately wished for. John's heart tightened at the sight. He immediately bent down to their level, using the same gentle tone he'd often used to soothe frightened recruits in the field, and asked, "Are you all right? Where are your parents?" The oldest girl, a slender and resolute teen named Mia, looked at him with a bravery that seemed to belie her years. She explained, in halting sentences, that their parents had died unexpectedly in a tragic accident only days before, leaving them utterly alone in a world that suddenly felt impossibly vast and uncaring. Stunned, John listened as Mia recounted their family's last few days, the sorrow clear in her voice. Despite her own pain, she had been holding her younger sisters together, comforting them as best as she could, though her eyes betrayed the exhaustion of a young life, forced to mature far too quickly. John's gaze drifted across the faces of each girl, sensing their vulnerability and resilience mingling in equal measure. The thought of these 9 sisters being separated by the foster care system, each one sent to different homes, lingered in his mind like a thorn. A powerful conviction began to take root within him, an instinct not unlike the one that had driven him to protect his country. He couldn't bear the thought of them being torn apart. Despite his own struggles and the life he had carved out in solitude, John felt a sudden, undeniable purpose. That evening, he found himself returning to his own empty home, yet his thoughts remained with the 9 sisters. Images of them flashed in his mind as he paced his small living room, grappling with a decision that would forever change the course of his life. In the quiet of that night, he realized he couldn't walk away. These girls, for reasons he couldn't fully explain, were meant to be a part of his journey. The next day, John made a decision that few in Maplewood could have predicted. He marched into the town's social services office, determination radiating from every step. He was met with surprised expressions and whispered conversations as he stated his intention. He wanted to adopt the sisters and keep them together as a family. The process was anything but simple. Social workers, counselors, and even the town's mayor questioned his resolve, reminding him of the challenges involved. There were logistical, cultural, and financial obstacles. Many doubted that a single man, a veteran who had never been a father, could handle the responsibility of raising 9 girls from diverse ages and needs. Yet John's resolve never wavered. He knew this was his path, his chance to rebuild his family. In the days that followed, John was met with a mix of skepticism and admiration from the townspeople. His friends questioned his motives, wondering aloud if he was acting out of misplaced duty. Some even whispered that grief was clouding his judgment. But he understood in his heart that this choice was rooted in something much deeper than obligation. He saw these girls as a chance to bring purpose back into his life, to build the family he had once dreamed of sharing with Rebecca. With the help of a kind-hearted social worker named Sarah, John navigated the hurdles and endless paperwork. Sarah had seen the fear in the girl's eyes and the gentleness in John's. She sensed that despite the immense challenges ahead, he might be exactly what they needed. Together, they laid out a plan for John's home, a place he now envisioned as filled with the laughter and love that had long been absent. On a clear morning, John stood before a family court judge who would decide the fate of his burgeoning family. The judge's gaze was stern, his voice cautious as he questioned John's ability to shoulder such a monumental responsibility. Yet John's answers were earnest and unwavering, his words reflecting a resolve forged through years of service and loss. His only desire was to offer these girls a safe, stable home where they could grow up together as sisters. The courtroom fell silent as the judge finally pronounced his decision. The adoption was approved, and John's heart surged with relief and joy. From that moment, the 9 sisters were no longer orphans. They were his daughters. The transition to family life was anything but easy. On their first night in John's modest home, the girls sat around the dinner table, polite but reserved. They were strangers bound by circumstance, each one carrying her own grief and fear. But John saw hope in their eyes, a quiet resilience that he knew would help them weather the coming days. He was ready to give them everything he could, to create a life filled with warmth, support, and understanding. In the following weeks, John adapted his home to meet the girls' needs, turning his quiet living room into a space for family gatherings, laughter, and love. He learned to braid hair, to bandage scraped knees, and to listen with patience as each girl slowly opened up about the loss they carried in their hearts. Though challenges arose, and the journey was marked by moments of doubt, John found that his love for his new family only grew. For the first time since Rebecca's passing, his home was filled with life. The sounds of laughter, sibling squabbles, and shared stories became the soundtrack to his days. In his quiet moments, John felt Rebecca's presence, a silent blessing that filled his heart with peace. As the family found their rhythm, word spread through Maplewood of the veteran, who had adopted 9 sisters, a story that captivated the small town. But John's focus was on his daughters and the future they were building together. Unbeknownst to him, this was only the beginning of a journey that would lead to triumphs, heartaches, and an unbreakable bond. In that moment, as he watched the girls settle into their new home, John knew one thing for certain. They were his family, and he would stand by them through every trial that lay ahead. A family begins to take root. In the months that followed, John's small house transformed from a quiet refuge into a bustling family home. The first days were fragile, with each girl moving cautiously, testing the boundaries of this new arrangement. John knew he had taken on an enormous responsibility, one that required patience, resilience, and an endless reserve of love. Yet he was driven by an unwavering commitment to give his new daughters the life and stability they deserved. Each girl had her own way of adapting to her new reality. Mia, the eldest at 14, was steadfast and responsible, carrying the weight of a leader despite her youth. She had been the one to soothe her sisters' fears, to reassure them in their darkest moments. John noticed how she seemed to keep her emotions tightly guarded, as though revealing any vulnerability might shatter the strength her sisters leaned on. He understood her silence and approached it with patience, hoping that in time she would learn to trust him as a father and not merely as a caretaker. The younger girls each had their unique personalities and needs, from tiny, shy Ava, who clung to her sisters like a lifeline, to Lena, a spirited 7-year-old whose laughter could brighten even the grayest of days. To navigate the complexities of this new life, John decided to spend time with each of the girls individually, hoping to understand their strengths, fears, and what they missed most about the life they had lost. It was in these one-on-one moments that John began to see not only their wounds, but also the hidden resilience that marked each of them. One evening, As the younger girls slept, John found himself alone in the living room with Mia. She was sitting at the table, organizing her sister's schoolbooks, a quiet concentration on her face. He sat beside her, noticing the exhaustion in her eyes. "You know," he began gently, "you don't have to carry all of this alone. That's why I'm here, to help, to be there for all of you." Mia glanced at him, her expression unreadable. After a moment, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't want them to feel like they're alone again." The weight of her words struck John, and he reached out, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "They're not alone, Mia, and neither are you. We're a family now." For the first time, Mia's gaze softened, and she gave a slight nod. It was a small gesture, but to John, it was a step toward the trust he hoped to build. Life in Maplewood took on a new rhythm as the weeks turned into months. The girls enrolled in the local school, becoming part of the community in their own way. Maplewood was a town steeped in tradition, a place where everyone knew each other, and change was often met with resistance. While some welcomed the unconventional family, others harbored quiet doubts, casting sidelong glances at John whenever he walked through town with his daughters. One Sunday, John took the girls to the town's only park, hoping to spend a carefree afternoon outside. As they strolled through the greenery, a few townsfolk stopped to greet them, exchanging polite but curious looks. John's old friend Marcus, a fellow veteran, approached him, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. "John," he said, pulling him aside, "I never thought I'd see you as a father to 9 girls. You sure you can handle it?" John chuckled, but the truth lay in his steady, resolute answer. "They needed someone, Marcus, and I couldn't walk away. I've never felt more certain about anything in my life." Marcus gave him a respectful nod, though a hint of doubt lingered in his eyes. "Just know that you've got support if you need it. The road ahead won't be easy." John was well aware of the challenges. He had taken on a role that most people wouldn't consider, and he knew he'd have to work tirelessly to bridge the differences that separated him from the girls. He found himself learning about the intricate braiding styles the girls loved, the cultural heritage they cherished, and the foods that brought comfort to them. He realized that if he were to truly be their father, he needed to embrace every part of who they were. One day, he reached out to Mrs. Clara, a respected elder at the local community center. Mrs. Clara had deep roots in the African American community in Maplewood and had been a family friend of the girls' parents. When John asked for her help, she responded with open arms. Mrs. Clara was more than just a friend. She became a mentor to John, guiding him through the nuances of raising the girls in a way that honored their cultural heritage. She taught him about traditional foods, music, and history, helping him understand that his role wasn't just to provide a home, but to foster a sense of belonging that could connect the girls to their past. One evening, Mrs. Clara invited John and the girls to a cultural celebration at the community center. It was a vibrant event, filled with music, dance, and laughter, a stark contrast to the quiet evenings they had spent in their own home. At first, the girls were hesitant, shyly clinging to John's side, but slowly they began to engage with other children and immerse themselves in the celebration. Mia, who was often reserved, eventually joined in on a traditional dance, her serious expression giving way to laughter. John watched with a mixture of pride and relief, grateful that they had found a place where the girls could feel connected and seen. He realized that this was as much a part of their family as the routines he had established at home. But despite the strides they were making, challenges continued to test their resilience. Some days, John felt like he was in over his head. Between managing the household, helping with homework, and soothing the girls' insecurities, there were moments when he questioned his ability to be the father they needed. And the whispers from some of the townsfolk didn't help. One afternoon, John and the girls were out grocery shopping when he overheard a woman's voice in the next aisle. "I heard he's trying to play father to all those girls. Doesn't he know they're not really his?" The words stung, and John felt a surge of protectiveness well up inside him. But he chose to remain calm, determined not to let the negativity affect his family. Instead, he focused on the girls, who had thankfully not heard the remarks. He reminded himself that the love he shared with them was what mattered, not the opinions of strangers. That evening, as they sat around the dinner table, John felt a surge of gratitude for the life he was building with his daughters. In the midst of the challenges, they were becoming a family. Each girl was beginning to open up in her own way, sharing stories, laughter, and moments that bound them together more deeply than blood ever could. One night, as he tucked Ava into bed, she looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes. "Will you always stay with us, Daddy?" The title startled him. It was the first time any of the girls had called him that. He felt a lump rise in his throat as he leaned down, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Yes, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll always be here for you." From that moment, John became not just a guardian, but a father in the truest sense of the word. He understood that love wasn't confined to biology, but was instead born from the shared trials, laughter, and warmth that filled their lives. As the seasons changed, John's family continued to evolve, each girl growing in her own unique way. He introduced small family traditions to create a sense of unity: Sunday dinners, movie nights, and trips to the local library. Slowly, the girls began to trust him more, allowing him to become the father they hadn't dared to hope for. But as much as they were learning to love and trust each other, they were also learning to navigate a world that didn't always understand or accept them. The whispers in town continued, and John knew that they would face more prejudice and ignorance in the years to come. Yet he also knew that together, they could face whatever life threw their way. For now, they were building a foundation, a family rooted in understanding, compassion, and resilience. And John, once a solitary veteran haunted by loss, had found himself in the heart of a family, bound not by blood, but by love and purpose. As he watched his daughters settle into bed each night, John knew that despite the hurdles they would face, he had made the right choice. They were his family, and he would protect them fiercely through every storm that lay ahead. This was just the beginning of their story, a journey of healing, growth, and the unbreakable bond that would carry them through whatever the future held. Trials of trust and the power of belonging. Months turned into a year, and life in the Baker household began to take on a semblance of routine. The girls were growing, not just physically but emotionally, each one adjusting to their new roles and responsibilities within the family. For John, fatherhood was a constant balance between protecting his daughters and allowing them the space to find themselves. He quickly learned that each girl was on her own path, and all he could do was guide, listen, and most importantly, be present. Despite the progress they had made, moments of tension were inevitable. Some of these moments were small, like disagreements over whose turn it was to do the dishes or complaints about shared spaces. But other conflicts ran deeper, touching on scars that had yet to heal and fears that remained unspoken. One chilly autumn evening, John came home to a house full of tense silence. Mia, ever the leader and protector, was pacing in the kitchen, her expression a storm of frustration and worry. The younger girls were gathered in the living room, unusually quiet, their eyes darting between each other and the floor. Sensing the palpable tension, John approached Mia, his voice calm but concerned. "What happened?" he asked gently, searching her eyes for clues. Mia sighed heavily, looking down at her hands. "The girls at school. They were making fun of us, calling us names, saying we don't belong here." John's heart ached at her words, a familiar anger simmering within him. He'd noticed the side glances and occasional murmurs whenever they were out in public, but he had hoped that his daughters had been spared the brunt of it. "What did they say?" he asked, his voice calm but unwavering. Mia hesitated, but then, in a soft, shaky voice, she repeated the words. "They said we didn't belong here. That you're not really our dad, and that we're just some kind of charity case." John's hands clenched involuntarily. He'd been prepared for challenges, But hearing how the girls were being treated made him realize just how insidious prejudice could be, even in a small town like Maplewood. He took a deep breath, centering himself before speaking. "Mia, look at me," he said gently, waiting until she raised her eyes to meet his. "I know this hurts, but you do belong here, with me, with your sisters. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. You're my daughters, each and every one of you." He reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder, and for a moment, she allowed herself to lean into his comforting touch. It was a rare vulnerability from Mia, and John cherished it. But as quickly as she had softened, she straightened, her face returning to its usual steely resolve. "I'll be okay," she muttered. I don't want the younger ones to feel it. They're already dealing with so much." John nodded, understanding the protectiveness that fueled her resolve. Mia had assumed the role of caregiver long before he had entered their lives, and now, more than ever, he wanted to reassure her that she wasn't alone in carrying that weight. As the weeks passed, John could see the toll the situation was taking on the girls. The younger ones were confused and hurt by the cold stares and whispered remarks they occasionally encountered, and they clung to each other, seeking comfort in their shared bond. In an effort to bring some positivity into their lives, John decided to create a space within their home that would be uniquely theirs, a memory wall that honored both the family they had lost and the new one they were building together. He brought home a large empty frame and hung it in the hallway, along with a few shelves for keepsakes and mementos. One by one, he encouraged each girl to contribute something meaningful to the wall, whether it was a family photo, a small trinket, or a favorite piece of art. Together, they filled the space with memories, photos of their parents, drawings they'd made over the years, and small tokens of their past that held sentimental value. For John, the memory wall was a way to acknowledge their grief while celebrating the resilience that bound them. It was a reminder that their journey hadn't erased their past, but had woven it into the fabric of their new lives. One evening, as they sat together by the wall, the youngest, Ava, tugged on John's sleeve, her eyes bright with excitement. "Daddy, can we put up a picture of you two?" John's heart swelled at her words. He knelt down, eye level with Ava, and nodded. "Of course, sweetheart," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "This wall belongs to all of us." In the days that followed, the girls grew more attached to the memory wall, often gathering around it to share stories and memories. It became a sacred space, a testament to both the family they had lost and the love that had brought them together. And slowly, it helped the girls feel a sense of belonging that even the cruelest words couldn't shake. But despite the peace they found within their home, the outside world continued to challenge them. One afternoon, John received a call from the principal of the girls' school, informing him that one of the middle sisters, Lena, had been involved in an altercation. She had defended herself against a group of students who had mocked her for being different and accused her of not really being part of a real family. Lena, ever the firebrand, had responded fiercely, refusing to let their words go unchallenged. John was proud of her bravery, but he also knew that they couldn't afford to let the situation escalate. He arranged a meeting with the principal and took Lena aside to discuss what had happened. "You don't have to fight every battle alone, Lena," he said, kneeling down to her level. "I know you're strong, but sometimes there's more strength in walking away." Lena looked up at him, her eyes blazing with defiance. "But they don't get it. They don't understand us. They think we're just some mistake." John's heart broke at the frustration in her voice. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his voice soft but steady. "Listen, Lena, people can be hurtful when they don't understand something. But that doesn't make them right. You have a family that loves you, a family that's real and strong. Never let anyone make you feel like you're less than that." The conversation seemed to comfort her, and in the weeks that followed, Lena grew more at ease, finding strength in the support of her sisters and the lessons John continued to impart. The incident at school had left its mark, though, and John knew he needed to do something to bolster his daughter's sense of identity and self-worth. He turned once again to Mrs. Clara, who introduced him to a youth group at the community center that focused on cultural pride, self-empowerment, and mentorship. Through her, John arranged for the girls to attend weekly gatherings where they could meet other kids from diverse backgrounds, learn more about their heritage, and participate in activities that celebrated their individuality. At first, the girls were hesitant, unsure of what to expect. But over time, they began to look forward to the meetings. They found a community of peers who understood their struggles and celebrated their uniqueness. It was a space where they could be themselves without judgment, where they didn't have to explain or defend their family. One afternoon, as John arrived to pick up the girls from the center, he saw them laughing and chatting with a group of kids, their smiles wide and genuine. They seemed lighter, freer, and he realized that these gatherings had given them something he alone couldn't provide: a sense of belonging outside their home. The girls brought their experiences from the center back into their everyday lives, sharing stories of historical figures, traditions, and the pride they felt in who they were. It was a transformation that John cherished, watching as they grew more comfortable in their own skin and more resilient in the face of the challenges that remained. But as they settled into this newfound sense of identity, John faced his own doubts. Some nights, when the house was quiet, he found himself wondering if he was truly the father they needed. He questioned if he was equipped to navigate the complexities of raising 9 daughters in a world that didn't always welcome them. He knew he was just one man, doing his best, but sometimes that felt inadequate. One evening, as he sat by the memory wall, deep in thought, Mia joined him. She looked up at him with a quiet understanding that belied her years, and for a moment, they sat in comfortable silence. "I know this isn't easy," Maya said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we're glad you're here." John looked at her, surprised by the honesty in her words. "Thank you, Mia," he replied, his voice thick with gratitude. "That means more to me than you know." She gave him a small, rare smile, and in that moment, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that, despite his doubts, his presence alone was enough. The love he had for his daughters was real, and though the road was difficult, he was exactly where he needed to be. Together, they would continue to build this family, facing every challenge, embracing every victory, and holding on to the love that bound them. For John and his daughters, this was just the beginning of a journey that would shape them in ways they had yet to understand. But one thing was certain: they belonged to each other, and that was more powerful than any obstacle they would face. Trials of acceptance and strengthened bonds. Another year passed, bringing both growth and challenges for John and his 9 daughters. As the seasons shifted, so did the dynamics within their household. Each girl was finding her place, her voice, and her identity within the family and the community. John watched them transform, feeling a mix of pride and anxiety as he witnessed the teenage years begin to shape their lives. Maplewood's conservative community was still coming to terms with the unique family. Most townsfolk had accepted the Baker girls and admired John's dedication, yet others still cast skeptical glances or whispered words of judgment. But the Baker family had grown stronger, bound by the trials they had faced together. The love they shared gave them a resilience that was often tested by the outside world. One cold winter afternoon, the family's strength would face a test unlike any before. John was cleaning up after a late breakfast when Mia approached him, her face a picture of worry. She handed him a letter she had found slipped under their front door, a single sheet of paper with typed words that made John's stomach twist. It read, "Maplewood isn't a place for families like yours. Take those girls somewhere they belong." John felt a surge of anger and protectiveness well up within him. He glanced over at Mia, who was watching him with worried eyes, and forced himself to remain calm. The girls had already faced so much, and he didn't want this vile message to shake the peace they had worked so hard to create. "Is it someone from the town?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe. Maybe not. It doesn't matter, John replied, his tone resolute. What matters is that we don't let it change us. This is our home, and no one has the right to tell us otherwise. Mia nodded, though John could see the hurt behind her brave expression. He knew this kind of hatred could leave scars that were hard to heal, and he wished he could shield his daughters from the ugliness of prejudice. But he also understood that some battles couldn't be avoided. That evening, John called the girls together in the living room, deciding that they needed to confront the issue as a family. The younger ones listened with wide eyes as John explained, in careful words, what the letter had said. They were silent, absorbing the reality that not everyone accepted their family. Finally, Lena spoke up, her voice tinged with defiance. "So, what? We're just supposed to hide and pretend we're not here?" she asked, crossing her arms. "No," John replied, his voice steady and warm. "We don't hide. We don't change who we are for anyone. We keep living, loving each other, and being the family we know we are. This letter, it's just words. It doesn't change anything about us." His words seemed to comfort the girls, and as they sat in the circle, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. He would do everything in his power to give them a sense of safety, to teach them to stand tall in the face of hatred. In the following weeks, John made it his mission to not only protect his daughters, but to encourage them to embrace who they were. He involved them more actively in the town's cultural events, working closely with Mrs. Clara and other leaders at the community center. They attended gatherings, volunteered at local charity events, and joined clubs that reflected their interests. Through these activities, the girls slowly began to feel more integrated, forming connections that allowed them to see the beauty of their individuality and the strength of their family. The younger ones, especially Ava and Lena, found solace in the friendships they made at the community center, while Mia and the older girls took comfort in Mrs. Clara's guidance. One Saturday, the center hosted a heritage festival, a celebration of diverse cultures through food, music, and storytelling. The Bakers decided to attend together, with each girl excitedly choosing an outfit and helping one another with their hair and accessories. John watched them with pride as they prepared, their laughter filling the house with a joy that melted his worries. The festival was a vibrant affair. The community center was decorated with colorful banners, and tables overflowed with traditional dishes from different cultures. John and the girls moved from booth to booth, sampling food, listening to music, and immersing themselves in the rich traditions of the people around them. At one point, Mrs. Clara introduced John to a man named Reverend Thompson, an elderly pastor from a nearby town who had heard about John's family and had wanted to meet him. The Reverend, a wise and gentle man, took John's hand with a smile that radiated warmth and kindness. "I've heard much about you, Mr. Baker," the Reverend said, his voice kind. "Raising 9 daughters takes courage and love. It's clear you've got both in plenty." John smiled, humbled by the Reverend's words. "I'm doing my best. They're remarkable girls. I just want to do right by them." Reverend Thompson nodded thoughtfully. "You already are. Remember, love is stronger than any judgment or prejudice. When people see your family, they see a strength that challenges their own beliefs. That can be intimidating." John took these words to heart, feeling a quiet affirmation of his choices. As the festival continued, he watched his daughters laugh, dance, and form connections that deepened their sense of belonging. It was a small victory, a reminder that despite the challenges, their family was thriving. But as much as the festival brought them closer to the community, old prejudices resurfaced. A few days later, John received another unsettling call from the school. This time, it was about Mia, who had been targeted by a group of students for being different. She had walked away without reacting, but John could sense that the incident had shaken her confidence. When he got home, he found Mia sitting by the memory wall, staring at the photos and mementos with a distant expression. He sat beside her, waiting until she was ready to speak. "I know I should ignore it," she finally said, her voice soft. "But it hurts, Dad. Sometimes I feel like like they'll never see us as a real family. John felt the weight of her words and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Mia, you don't need their approval to be a family. Family isn't about what other people see. It's about what we feel for each other. And I wouldn't trade what we have for anyone's acceptance. Mia nodded, a faint smile breaking through her sadness. In that moment, John felt a surge of love and pride for his daughter, who had endured so much yet continued to protect her sisters with unwavering resolve. As spring arrived, the Bakers grew even closer, each girl finding her place and purpose within the family. The trials they had faced only strengthened their bonds, and John sensed that they were moving toward a new chapter, one where they could begin to define themselves beyond their past and the judgment of others. It was around this time that Mrs. Clara approached John with an idea that would bring their family's journey full circle. She suggested that they start a mentorship program at the community center, one that paired foster children with local mentors to provide support, guidance, and a sense of belonging. The idea resonated deeply with John. He knew how isolating it could feel to be different, to lack the support of a family. With Mrs. Clara's help, John and his daughters began working on the project, drawing from their own experiences to create a program that celebrated diversity, resilience, and community. The girls threw themselves into the project with passion and purpose. Maya took on a leadership role, helping to organize events and manage the logistics, while the younger ones decorated the center and made posters. Lena, with her creative spirit, designed the program's logo, a symbol of unity and strength. On the day of the program's launch, the community center was filled with families, mentors, and children from all walks of life. John watched as his daughters greeted attendees, each of them embodying the resilience and compassion that had grown from their journey. During the ceremony, Mia gave a short speech, her voice steady and confident as she spoke about the importance of family and belonging. "Sometimes family isn't what people expect," she said, glancing over at her sisters and then at John. "But what matters is the love that binds us, the support we give each other. We're proof that family can be chosen, that love can be stronger than any obstacle." As she finished, the room erupted into applause, and John felt a wave of emotion wash over him. His daughters had not only survived, they had thrived, becoming the young women he had always hoped they could be. As the event wound down, the Bakers gathered outside, taking in the day's success. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the town, and John realized that they had not only built a family, but had created a space where others could find the support and acceptance they had longed for. In that moment, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace. They had faced prejudice, heartache, and uncertainty, yet they had emerged stronger, their bond unbreakable. And as they walked home together, laughing and sharing stories, John knew that they were ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. The journey wasn't over, but with each step, they were creating a legacy, a family rooted in love, resilience, and the power to transform even the hardest of trials into strength, facing new horizons and embracing legacy. As the Bakers moved further into their lives together, John began to notice the subtle signs of change within his daughters. The oldest girls, now in their late teens, were beginning to look beyond the walls of their Maplewood home, their dreams stretching toward the future. Conversations about college, careers, and life outside the small town began to pepper their family dinners, filling John with both pride and a bittersweet longing. His daughters were blossoming, each one stepping into her identity, her path, and her voice. Yet, with each conversation about the future, he felt the reality of letting go come closer. One evening, as John was helping Maya fill out college applications at the kitchen table, she suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with hesitation. He sensed there was something weighing on her, and he gave her a gentle nod, inviting her to speak. "Dad, she began, trailing off before she took a deep breath, and started again. "I've been thinking a lot about what comes next, about college and leaving home. I feel like I should stay." The younger girls, They need someone here, you know. John's heart swelled with love and a touch of sadness. Mia had always been the protector, the quiet leader among her sisters, often sacrificing her own needs to ensure they were safe and cared for. Now, at this crucial moment, he saw her struggling between her loyalty to her family and the dreams she had worked so hard to build. "Mia," he said softly, reaching across the table to take her hand. "You've already done so much for your sisters. They're ready now, thanks to you. And they have me. You don't have to put your life on hold for us. Go chase your dreams. You deserve that." She looked at him, a faint smile breaking through her expression of worry. "Are you sure? I just don't want to let anyone down." He squeezed her hand, his gaze steady. "You could never let us down, Mia. You've been an anchor for this family, but it's time for you to be who you want to be. We'll be right here, cheering you on." The conversation left a lasting impact on Mia, who seemed to carry a lighter step in the days that followed. She began working harder on her applications, expressing a mix of excitement and anxiety as she navigated the process. And as her plans took shape, John noticed that her example began to influence her sisters as well. The other older girls, inspired by Mia's courage, began exploring their own aspirations. Lena, always the artist at heart, expressed an interest in attending an art school to pursue her passion for painting and design. When she shared this with John, she did so with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, worried that her dream might be seen as impractical. But John's response was one of pure support. "Lena, the world needs artists just as much as it needs doctors, engineers, and teachers," he told her with a smile. "If art is what makes you come alive, then go after it with everything you have." Encouraged by her father's words, Lena spent countless nights in her room, working on a portfolio that would showcase her talent and dedication. Her art began to evolve, capturing moments of their family life, memories from their past, and dreams of the future. It was her way of processing everything they had been through, each brushstroke a testament to their journey. But as the older girls looked outward, the younger ones began to experience a mixture of excitement and fear at the thought of their family shifting. They clung to each other, finding comfort in the routines and traditions they had established. For Ava, the youngest, the idea of her older sisters leaving home was a source of anxiety. She had grown up feeling protected by her sisters, and the thought of facing life without them left her feeling lost. One evening, as John was tucking her into bed, she whispered her fears to him, her small hand clutching his. "Daddy, what if they leave and don't come back? What if we're not a family anymore?" John's heart ached at her words, and he leaned down, smoothing her hair as he spoke softly. "Ava, family doesn't disappear. Even if your sisters go off to follow their dreams, we're always connected. We've been through so much together, and that's not going to change. They'll come back. I promise." His words seemed to comfort her, and he watched as she slowly drifted off to sleep, her breathing steady. Yet John knew that even as they reassured the younger girls, the time was coming when he would have to let go. He had raised his daughters to be strong, independent, and kind-hearted, but the thought of their absence left an emptiness he hadn't anticipated. One evening, while cleaning up after dinner, John found himself alone with Mrs. Clara, who had become a constant presence and support in their lives. She sensed his melancholy and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "It's hard, isn't it?" she asked, her voice filled with understanding. "Seeing them grow up, ready to take on the world." John nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I knew this day would come, but I didn't realize it would feel like losing part of myself." Mrs. Clara gave him a knowing smile. "You're not losing them, John. You're giving them the world. The love and strength you've shown them. It's what will carry them forward. And remember, they'll always come back." Her words stayed with him, giving him a sense of peace as he watched his daughters prepare for their futures. But as they began to venture out, each girl discovering her own path, John knew that he needed to find a way to anchor their family. to create something lasting that would keep them connected no matter where life took them. Inspired by the memory wall they had created, John proposed a new family tradition. Each year, they would gather for a reunion, a time to come together, share their experiences, and honor the bond that had sustained them. The idea resonated with the girls, and they eagerly began planning their first reunion. That summer, as they gathered by the lake where they had shared countless family memories, the Bakers celebrated the start of a new chapter. They shared stories, laughed, and reminisced, each girl bringing a piece of her journey back to the family. Maya spoke about her first few months in college. Lena shared the latest pieces from her art portfolio, and the younger girls excitedly showed off the skills they had learned in their extracurricular activities. The reunion became a tradition, a sanctuary where they could return to their roots and reconnect with the love that had shaped them. And over the years, as each girl grew into her own, they carried this bond with them, knowing that no matter how far they traveled, they would always have a home in each other. As time passed, their family continued to evolve. John found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point, the countless trials and triumphs that had defined their lives. The once small house that had been a haven of laughter and love was now quieter, yet it held a warmth that could never fade. One day, as he walked by the memory wall, John paused, his gaze lingering on the photos and mementos that told their story. He realized that the wall had become a living testament to their family's resilience, a reminder of the strength and love that had carried them through every challenge. Driven by a desire to give back, John decided to expand the mentorship program at the community center, turning it into a foundation in his daughter's honor. He called it the Baker Legacy Foundation, dedicated to supporting children in the foster care system, particularly those from underrepresented backgrounds. The foundation provided mentorship, educational resources, and a network of support for children who had faced similar struggles. John's daughters eagerly joined him, each bringing her unique skills and experiences to the foundation. Maya took on a leadership role, overseeing the organization's outreach programs, while Lena contributed her artistic talents, designing logos, materials, and artwork that captured the essence of their mission. The younger girls participated as well, helping with community events, tutoring, and providing support to children in need. The foundation quickly gained traction, becoming a beacon of hope for families and children who had experienced loss and hardship. Through their work, the Bakers not only honored their own journey, but also inspired others to embrace the power of family, resilience, and love. Years later, as John watched his daughters flourish, he felt a profound sense of peace. They had become remarkable young women, each one embodying the values he had tried to instill. They were strong, compassionate, and courageous, united by a bond that would carry them through whatever life might bring. And as they stood together at the Foundation's annual gala, surrounded by friends, community members, and families who had been touched by their story, John realized that their journey had come full circle. The love they had created, the family they had built, was now reaching beyond themselves, touching lives in ways he had never imagined. With a heart full of gratitude, John raised a toast to his daughters, to the journey they had shared, and to the legacy they had created, a legacy of resilience, love, and the unbreakable bonds that had carried them through every trial. For the Bakers, this was more than just a moment of celebration. It was a promise, a commitment to carry forward the love that had brought them together, to build a future rooted in compassion, strength, and an enduring sense of family. And as they stood hand in hand, they knew that no matter where life took them, they would always find their way back to each other, bound by a love that time, distance, and even the world itself could never diminish. The legacy lives on. As the years passed, the Bakers' story grew beyond Maplewood, spreading across communities and inspiring countless families who heard of John Baker, the veteran who adopted 9 sisters and dedicated his life to keeping them together. Their journey was more than a story of resilience. It had become a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of love, chosen family, and unbreakable bonds. The Baker Legacy Foundation blossomed, evolving into a national organization with branches across several states, each chapter dedicated to providing foster children with the resources, mentorship, and support they needed to thrive. John continued to oversee the foundation, though he worked increasingly alongside his daughters, who had now become his partners and the torchbearers of the legacy he had built. Mia, with her steady leadership and unwavering sense of purpose, was instrumental in expanding the foundation's reach. She brought on new staff, developed programs, and partnered with other organizations to strengthen their mission. Her dedication and insight earned her recognition, and people in foster care communities around the country looked up to her as a role model. For Mia, the work was deeply personal, a way to honor the journey she and her sisters had walked together. Lena, on the other hand, continued to thrive in the creative world, her art gaining recognition for its depth and humanity. She had become an established artist, and her paintings often depicted scenes from her own family story, small, intimate moments of laughter, resilience, and connection. Her art became a unique voice for the foundation, capturing its essence in powerful, moving imagery that communicated their story without words. The younger sisters each contributed to the foundation in their own ways, blending their diverse talents into the organization's mission. Emma, the family's gentle soul, found her calling in counseling, working directly with children to help them process their experiences and feel seen. Her compassion and patience became a cornerstone of the foundation's mental health programs, creating safe spaces for children to heal. As the foundation grew, so did the Bakers' influence in fostering communities of support and acceptance. John, now in his 70s, watched in awe as his daughters transformed his dream into a movement that reached beyond anything he had ever imagined. He continued to play a role in the organization, though age had tempered his ability to work as actively as he once did. He served as an advisor, his presence and wisdom offering guidance to the girls and foundation staff alike. One spring morning, while reviewing the foundation's quarterly report with Mia, John felt a faint yet familiar discomfort in his chest. He had experienced a few health challenges in recent years, but this one lingered longer than usual. Concerned, Mia insisted he visit the doctor, and after some tests, John received news that would change the course of his family once again. The doctors confirmed that John's heart condition was worsening, and though they offered treatment options, he knew his health would continue to decline. As the reality settled in, he felt a mixture of sadness and acceptance. He had lived a full life, one filled with purpose and love, and he was immensely grateful. Yet the thought of leaving his daughters weighed heavily on his heart. For weeks, John kept the diagnosis to himself, reluctant to burden his daughters, who were thriving in their roles within the foundation. But as his symptoms progressed, he knew it was time to share the truth. One evening, he gathered the girls around the living room, the very heart of their home, where they had spent countless nights sharing stories, laughter, and tears. They sensed something was different, an unusual heaviness in their father's eyes. John took a deep breath, his voice calm yet laced with emotion. "I've been blessed to be your father," he began, his gaze moving from one daughter to the next. "And I am so proud of the women you've become. But there's something I need to tell you." He explained his condition gently, reassuring them even as their eyes filled with worry and grief. Each girl processed the news in her own way, some holding his hand, others wiping away silent tears. But together, they formed a circle around him, their presence a comforting reminder of the family he had created from love and resilience. Mia, always the leader, spoke up first, her voice steady yet filled with resolve. "We'll be here for you, Dad, just like you've always been here for us. Whatever you need, we'll get through this together." Over the next few weeks, the girls adjusted their schedules to care for John, balancing their responsibilities at the foundation with time spent at home. The roles had shifted. Now they were the caretakers, guiding John with the same compassion and love he had shown them throughout their lives. They prepared meals, managed his medications, and took turns accompanying him to doctor appointments, each sister contributing in her own way. Despite his declining health, John's spirit remained strong, fueled by the love that surrounded him. He spent his days immersed in family activities, cherishing every moment. He shared stories from his time in the military, memories of his early days with Rebecca, and his gratitude for the life they had built together. The memory wall had expanded, now overflowing with photos, letters, and mementos from their shared journey. One afternoon, John sat with each daughter individually, offering them words of wisdom and encouragement for the path he knew they would continue walking after he was gone. To Mia, he spoke of leadership and resilience, encouraging her to keep guiding the foundation with strength and compassion. To Lena, he spoke of the importance of storytelling, reminding her to use her art to capture the beauty and challenges of life. The younger girls listened as he shared his hopes and dreams for their futures, reminding them of the love and strength they would always carry within them. He encouraged them to follow their passions, to continue building the legacy they had created together, and to hold on to each other, no matter where life might take them. As the family's reunion approached that summer, the girls decided to make it a grand celebration, a tribute to the man who had given them the gift of family. They invited friends, extended family, and community members who had supported them along the way. The reunion became a day filled with laughter, music, and memories, a joyful reflection of the life they had built together. As the sun set over the lake, casting a golden glow over the water, John stood before his daughters, his voice filled with emotion as he addressed them. "You are my greatest accomplishment," he said, his eyes misty. "No matter where life takes you, remember that love brought us together. It will keep you strong, even when I'm gone." One by one, each daughter hugged him, their hearts heavy yet filled with gratitude. They knew that this would be their last reunion with him, and they held on to every moment, every word, as if trying to capture his presence in their memories. In the quiet weeks that followed, John's health continued to decline, but he remained at peace, his spirit comforted by the love that surrounded him. On a warm autumn afternoon, with his daughters by his side, John closed his eyes for the last time, leaving the world as he had lived in it, surrounded by love, strength, and the family he had created. The Bakers mourned their loss deeply, each one processing the grief in her own way. But as they looked back on their journey, they found comfort in the legacy John had left them. His words, his love, and his unwavering belief in the power of family had become the foundation of their lives, guiding them as they moved forward. To honor John's memory, the girls dedicated a new branch of the foundation to him, named the John Baker Center for Family Resilience. The center focused on providing resources and support to foster and adoptive families, helping them build strong, lasting bonds in the face of challenges. It became a space where children and families could find hope, guidance, and the kind of love that had defined the Bakers' journey. In the years that followed, the sisters continued to grow the foundation, each one contributing in her unique way. They held events, offered scholarships, and created programs that brought families together. The Bakers' story became a source of inspiration for countless people, a reminder that family is not defined by blood, but by the love and commitment that bind people together. And as each sister built her own life, started her own family, or pursued her dreams, they carried John's legacy with them. They returned to Maplewood each year for the family reunion, gathering by the lake to share memories, laughter, and the enduring love that had brought them together. One year, as the eldest sisters led the next generation in a family game by the lake, Maya looked around at her sisters and their children, feeling a profound sense of peace. She knew that her father's dream had been realized. They had not only survived but thrived, their lives forever changed by the love of one man who had refused to let them be torn apart. With a smile, she looked toward the memory wall they had recreated by the lake, a tribute to the journey they had shared. It was filled with photos of John, the foundation, and the family that had grown from his love. Standing before it, Mia whispered, "Thank you, Dad. We're still here, just as you hoped." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the lake. The Bakers knew that John's spirit would forever be a part of their lives, a quiet strength guiding them through every challenge, every triumph, and every moment of love they would share in the years to come. Generations of strength and the everlasting bond. Years turned into decades, and the Bakers' story had woven itself into the fabric of Maplewood. The town had changed. New families had come and gone. Storefronts had modernized, and the once small community had grown into a hub of art, culture, and resilience, due in no small part to the Baker Legacy Foundation. What had once been a single idea had now blossomed into an enduring network of support and empowerment for foster families and adoptive communities across the nation. And at the heart of this foundation remained the spirit of one man, John Baker, whose vision of family had sparked a legacy that stretched far beyond his lifetime. Now well into adulthood, Mia, Lena, and their sisters had each found their paths, blending their careers and personal lives with the mission they had inherited. Mia, the eldest, now a renowned leader within the foundation, had taken the organization to new heights, working with state and national leaders to improve policies for foster children and adoptive families. Her name had become synonymous with advocacy, and her voice a trusted one in the world of child welfare. One warm spring evening, as Mia was leaving a foundation board meeting, she received a call from Lena, who had recently moved back to Maplewood with her own young children. Lena's return to the town where they had first forged their family brought a mix of nostalgia and fulfillment, but it had also prompted a new desire within her, to honor their journey in a more tangible way. Mia, I've been thinking. Lena's voice was animated with excitement as she spoke. I want to do something for Dad. Something that will stand the test of time. Mia paused, her curiosity piqued. What did you have in mind? Lena took a deep breath before continuing. I want to open an art center in Maplewood, a place where kids from foster and adoptive families can come and create. A space where they can tell their own stories through art, just like we did. We could name it after Dad. Mia smiled, feeling the warmth of her sister's vision echo within her. The Bakers had always used art, storytelling, and self-expression as ways to cope, to connect, and to remember. Their childhood home, the memory wall, and their father's legacy had all been built on the idea that storytelling was a powerful form of healing. That's a beautiful idea, Lena, Maya replied, her voice soft with emotion. Let's do it. I'll help however I can. With Mia's support, Lena brought the idea to life, working tirelessly with local artists, teachers, and the foundation's staff to build the John Baker Center for Arts and Healing. The center quickly became a beacon for children from every background, a space where they could create, learn, and feel understood. Walls were adorned with artwork created by local children, while rooms were filled with paintbrushes, clay, instruments, and dance floors. And at the heart of the center stood a mural, painted by Lena herself, depicting their family's journey, from the modest house in Maplewood to the legacy that had grown from it. When the art center opened its doors, it was more than just a new facility. It was a culmination of John's legacy, a living reminder that family was more than blood. It was built through shared stories, struggles, and love. People from all over Maplewood and beyond came to support the center, and over the years, it became a place where young people found their voices and told stories of their own. One summer, during the center's annual art gala, Mia took the stage to deliver a speech, her heart full as she gazed at the packed room of supporters, families, and children who had found solace within the center's walls. Standing beside Lena and her other sisters, she felt the presence of her father, as though he were watching over them, smiling at how far they had come. My father, Mia began, her voice carrying the weight of decades of love, loss, and triumph, believed in the power of family. Not just family by blood, but family by choice, by resilience, and by love. He taught us that family isn't limited to who you're born to, it's who you build with. And today, I look around this room, and I see the family we've built together. Each one of you carries a piece of that legacy forward, and that's something worth celebrating. Applause echoed through the room as tears welled up in the eyes of those who had been touched by the baker's story. Over the years, their family had grown in ways John might never have imagined. His daughters had children of their own, each grandchild hearing stories of their grandfather's unwavering strength and compassion. The Arts Center became a staple in the community, but the sisters' work extended beyond Maplewood. The Baker Legacy Foundation continued to thrive, expanding into several cities across the country, each branch providing support tailored to the communities it served. The Baker's story inspired a generation of adoptive families, and countless foster children found a sense of hope in knowing they, too, could overcome their circumstances and find the family they longed for. Yet, as their lives blossomed, the sisters made time each year to gather together, preserving their father's tradition of family reunions. They returned to Maplewood each summer, bringing their own families, sharing memories, and honoring the journey that had bound them together. Their visits to the lake, the same lake where John had taken them on their first family outing, became a cherished ritual, a way of keeping their father's spirit alive in the simplicity of nature. One summer, during their annual reunion, Mia and Lena gathered the family together for a special announcement. As they sat around a campfire by the lake, the children listening with wide-eyed wonder, Mia explained their vision for the future of the foundation. "We want to extend our mission," Mia began, her voice filled with excitement. "We're planning to create an international branch of the foundation, focusing on supporting children and families in areas with limited resources. Dad's dream went far beyond Maplewood, and we believe that the love he gave us can reach even more children around the world." The family erupted into cheers, the children clapping and the sisters exchanging proud smiles. The idea of taking their father's legacy to an international stage felt both daunting and exhilarating, but the Bakers knew that they had the strength to make it happen. They had built their lives on resilience and compassion, and now they were ready to share that with the world. In the following years, the Baker Legacy Foundation launched its first international branch in a small village in Ghana, partnering with local leaders and communities to provide resources, educational programs, and mentorship for foster children. The project was a success, paving the way for additional branches in Kenya, Brazil, and India, each one tailored to the needs of the local communities. Lena, with her passion for storytelling, traveled to each branch, capturing the stories of children and families who found hope and support through the foundation's work. Her artwork became a reflection of the global family they were building, each piece an expression of love and resilience that transcended borders. The Baker Legacy Foundation became known not just as an organization, but as a movement, a testament to the idea that love and family could overcome even the greatest odds. Each branch carried with it the memory of John Baker, the man whose simple dream of keeping a family together had blossomed into a worldwide legacy. Years later, on a warm autumn evening in Maplewood, Mia, Lena, and their sisters gathered once again for a special event, the 50th anniversary of the Baker Legacy Foundation. The event was held at the very first center in Maplewood, where their journey had begun all those years ago. Friends, family, and supporters from around the world came to celebrate the foundation's work and honor the memory of the man who had inspired it all. As Mia stood before the crowd, surrounded by her sisters and the generations that had followed, she took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their journey and the love that had carried them through it. Her voice steady, she began to speak, her words echoing the legacy they had all inherited. 50 years ago, one man chose to create a family out of love and hope, to take in 9 sisters who needed someone to believe in them. Today, that choice has transformed lives around the world. My father taught us that family is about commitment, resilience, and compassion. And as long as we carry those values forward, his legacy will live on. The crowd erupted in applause, tears of pride and joy filling the eyes of those who had been touched by the Baker's story. As the evening drew to a close, Mia and her sisters gathered by the memory wall, which now stretched across an entire hallway, adorned with decades of photos, letters, and mementos from their journey. The wall had become a living testament to their family's resilience, a reminder of the man who had taught them the true meaning of love. Standing before the wall, Lena reached out to trace a hand over a photograph of their father, her eyes glistening with tears. "He's still with us," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. "Every step we take, he's here." Mia nodded, feeling the presence of their father in every memory, every moment they had shared. She placed her hand on Lena's shoulder, and the sisters stood in silence, surrounded by the legacy they had built together. As the sun set over Maplewood, casting a warm glow over the town, the Bakers knew that their journey was far from over. They had carried their father's dream with them, transforming it into a legacy that would continue to inspire, heal, and bring hope for generations to come. And as they walked away from the memory wall, hand in hand, they knew that they were never truly alone. Their family was bound, not by blood, but by the unbreakable spirit of love, a spirit that would live on in every life they touched, forever.